Understanding the BRCGS standard is critical in preparation and compliance. This training will focus on the BRCGS Global Standard Food Safety Issue 9. BRCGS, previously the British Retail Consortium or BRC, is a global organization that provides a framework of standards for brand reputation, food safety, packaging, storage, and other sectors. BRCGS certification is a benchmark for food manufacturers and suppliers to prove their commitment to product safety and quality to customers and retailers worldwide, ensuring high-quality products and safe supply chains. Some key aspects of BRCGS audit are: standards and certification. BRCGS sets standards for food safety, packaging, agents, brokers, ethical trade, and other areas. Certification under these standards demonstrates compliance and helps businesses gain customer trust and market access. Brand and consumer protection. The organization's primary goal is to protect brands and consumers by ensuring that products are safe, legal, and of high quality. GFSI recognition. The BRCGS Global Food Standard was one of the first food safety standards to be recognized by the Global Food Safety Initiative, or GFSI, which is a global benchmark for food safety schemes. Comprehensive framework. BRCGS standards provide a comprehensive quality management framework that covers various aspects of production, including risk management, hygiene, traceability, and supplier management. And global reach. BRCGS certifications are widely recognized by thousands of customers and major global retailers, making them crucial for companies operating in international supply chains. While a BRCGS audit is rigorous, a well-prepared facility has nothing to fear. Provided food safety is part of your daily operations, you can think of it as a structured review, not a high-stakes test. The key is preparation, not last-minute scrambling. The audits can be announced or unannounced, typically with 2 announced audits before an unannounced audit. The BRCGS Food Safety Standard is built around fundamental clauses, critical food safety requirements that, if not met, result in an automatic failure. In BRCGS Standard Issue 9, they include: Section 1. Senior Management Commitment. Section 2. The Food Safety Plan and HACCP. Section 3. Food Safety and Quality Management System. Section 4. Site Standards. Section 5. Product Control. Section 6. Process Control. Section 7. Personnel. Section 8. Production Risk Zones including high risk, high care, and ambient care. And Section 9. Requirements for traded products. The auditing manual has a color-coding system that shows the activities are audited by reviewing documentation versus practical application. Green highlighted sections include audit of records, systems, and documentation. Yellow highlighted sections are audits of production areas, facilities, and good manufacturing practices. And those highlighted with green and yellow are assessed using both methods. Section 1 focuses on the organization's senior management responsibilities towards the quality and food safety program. The fundamental of Section 1.1, Senior Management Commitment and Continual Improvement, is that the site's senior management shall demonstrate that they are committed to the implementation of the requirements of the Global Food Safety Initiative standard and to the processes which facilitate continual improvement of food safety, quality management, and the site's food safety and quality culture. Some key points of this section include: the company shall have a documented policy, which states the site's intention to meet its obligation to produce safe, legal, and authentic products to specify quality, and its responsibility to the customer. It must be signed off on by the senior person at the work site, communicated to all personnel, and include a statement of commitment to continuously improve the location's food safety and quality culture. Management review meetings attended by the site's senior management shall be completed at planned intervals, annually at a minimum, to review the site's performance against the BRC standard and objectives. Additionally, monthly meetings must take place to discuss food safety, authenticity, legality, and quality issues that must be brought to senior management's attention. These meetings must be documented with who attended and a summary of what was discussed as part of continuous improvement efforts. Other management programs like confidential reporting system, communication of code and scientific updates, and required financial and human resources are covered under this section. Under Section 1.2, the company shall demonstrate that they have a clear organizational structure and lines of communication to enable effective management of product safety, authenticity, legality, and quality. This is done by having an organizational chart, demonstration that employees are aware of their responsibilities, and a reporting system to notify management of any risks, as well as evidence of unsafe or out of specification product, equipment, packaging, or raw materials. Section 2 is where the company is asked to demonstrate a fully implemented and effective food safety plan incorporating the Codex Alimentarius HACCP principles. This section is focused on the quality and food safety team. 2.1 covers the HACCP food safety team requirements. There are two important points to this requirement. First, a HACCP food safety team must be formed that includes a multidisciplinary group of quality assurance, technical management, production, operations, and other relevant functions. And second, the team participants must be trained. 2.2 evaluates the HACCP prerequisite programs including cleaning and disinfection, pest management, maintenance, personal hygiene, staff training, supplier approval and purchasing, transportation, cross-contamination prevention, and allergen management. Section 2.3 through 2.6 comprise the HACCP plan requirements to effectively describe and define the intended use of products manufactured, and then the steps to construct and verify a process flow diagram. 2.3 involves a full description of each product to be developed that includes things like composition of raw materials, origins of ingredients, physical and chemical properties like pH or water activity that impact food, heating and cooling treatments, packaging system and methods, storage and distribution conditions, and relevant shelf life information. 2.4 requires a description of the intended use of the product by the customer, defining the customer groups, and any special considerations for vulnerable groups like infants, elderly, and allergen sufferers. 2.5 is where the audited company must demonstrate that they have completed a flow diagram that covers each product. It must lay out all aspects of the food manufacturing process from raw material receipt through processing, storage, and distribution. In 2.6, the process flow diagram must be verified during an audit, at least annually, to ensure it is accurate. It must also be reviewed when there are changes to processes. Records of the verification methods must be documented. Section 2.7 lists the requirements of a hazard analysis, and 2.8 through 2.10 includes critical control points, critical limits, and monitoring systems. 2.7 requires the company to demonstrate that they have analyzed all potential hazards that are reasonably expected to occur throughout the entire manufacturing chain from raw material receipt to production, packaging, storage, and distribution. The assessment of hazard types must include microbiological, physical, chemical, radiation, fraud, malicious contamination, and allergen risk. The hazard risks must be evaluated for likelihood, severity, vulnerabilities, contamination, and risk survivability. 2.8 then gets into the critical control points where mitigation methods are put into place to prevent or eliminate a food safety hazard or reduce it to an acceptable level. 2.9 requires critical limits to be set at critical control points that are measurable where possible and supported by clear guidance when measurements are subjective. And 2.10 looks at the monitoring system for the critical control points. The system must be able to detect loss of process control in time to take corrective actions. And sections 2.11 through 2.13 involve the remaining HACCP plan essentials including corrective action program, validation of the plan, and documentation and record-keeping requirements. 2.11 requires the company to demonstrate an effective corrective action system to be implemented when monitored results show that a process is out of control or trending in that direction. 2.12 lists the requirements for validating the HACCP food safety plan prior to any changes that may affect product safety. Verification activities will include internal audits, as well as review of records, complaints, and incidents. Additionally, the plan will be reviewed at least annually for changes in raw materials, recipes, processes, packaging, storing, distribution chains, consumer use, risks, recall or withdrawal incidents, and new scientific information. And 2.13 demonstrates an effective documentation and record keeping that enables the site to verify the HACCP and food safety controls are in place and maintained. For more information on a compliant HACCP program, subscribe to Food Sure and watch the HACCP program training video. Section 3 focuses on food safety and quality management systems. Like Section 2, this area focuses on the quality and food safety team and the procurement or supply chain group. Section 3.1 evaluates whether the company's processes and procedures are documented to allow effective, consistent application, facilitate training, and support due diligence to ensure product safety. 3.2 ensures the company has a document control system to manage food safety records, and Section 3.3 looks to validate that completed documents are legible, maintained in good condition, retrievable, and retained. Section 3.4 lays out the requirements for internal audits. They include 4 different internal audits spread throughout the year. The scope, which shall include HACCP and/or food safety plans, prerequisite programs, food defense and fraud prevention plans, and other food safety procedures. The requirement for internal auditors to be trained and competent. Reports include both conforming and non-conforming evidence. And lastly, a separate program for inspections to ensure the facility environment and processing equipment are maintained in a suitable condition for food production based on the risk and changes to the work location. The results of internal audits must be reported to senior management to be reviewed during management meetings, and to those who are responsible for doing the work. Those responsible for nonconformances must develop corrective actions with timetables for the actions. Section 3.5 evaluates the supplier and raw material approval and performance monitoring system. 3.5.1 requires a risk assessment of each raw material for product safety, authenticity, legality, and quality. The risk criteria includes allergens, foreign bodies, microbiological, chemical, cross-contamination, substitutions or fraud, and regulatory or customer requirements. Additionally, under 3.5.2, the company must have a supplier approval procedure that ensures that all suppliers of raw materials and primary packaging effectively manage risks to raw material quality, safety, and traceability. A database of approved suppliers and primary manufacturers where materials are purchased through a broker or wholesaler. A documented process for supplier performance reviews. And a process for accepting raw materials such as product sampling, visual inspection, certificates of analysis, or certificates of conformance. Section 3.5.3 requires a procedure for approval and monitoring for suppliers of services, such as pest control, laundry services, contracted cleaning, laboratory testing, waste management, training, and off-site storage or packaging services. Included in the procedure, the formal agreements and evaluation methods for service suppliers must be attached. And 3.5.4 describes the requirements for co-packers or other outsourced producers. Section 3.6 describes the specification requirements for the raw materials, finished products, or any product or service that could affect a finished product. The specifications must be adequate and accurate to ensure compliance with relevant safety and legislative requirements. Specifications must be reviewed, at a minimum, every 3 years. 3.7 evaluates the corrective and preventive action program to address nonconforming products, internal and external audits, complaints, recalls, and product testing. Where a nonconformity places a product at risk or there is a negative trend, it shall be investigated and recorded, including clear documentation, assessment of consequences, corrective actions to address the immediate issue, a root cause analysis, timetable for corrective and preventive actions, responsible persons, and verification method. 3.8 lays out the requirements for nonconforming product procedures, including identification, marking or labeling, storage, management of returned products, defined responsibilities, record keeping of use or disposal, and records of destruction. 3.9 requires the company to have a procedure to trace all raw material lots all the way through processing, storage, and shipment to customers. Additionally, the traceability system must be tested, at least annually, to evaluate raw materials and finished products, rework, packaging, and labels for a quality check and mass balance. Traceability exercises must be completed within 4 hours. Section 3.10 covers handling customer complaints to address the issues and reduce future complaints. Complaints must be recorded, investigated, and trended to prevent recurrence. And Section 3.11 addresses the management of incidents, product withdrawals, and recalls. Procedures must be in place to handle all 3 levels. Incidents include disruption of key services like water, energy and staff availability, fires and natural disasters, malicious acts, product contamination, and cybersecurity attacks. Withdrawal and recall procedures must identify key personnel, decision action triggers, contact lists, communication plan, logistics planning, record keeping, and root cause analysis and corrective action requirements. If a significant food safety issue occurs, the BRCGS certification body must be notified within 3 working days, and a report must be provided within 21 days with sufficient information to aid them in assessing the validity of the current certification. Section 4 covers site standards. This section applies to most organizational departments including quality, operations, maintenance, shipping receiving, warehousing, and supply chain. 4.1 requirements include external standards and site security requiring the food manufacturer to maintain the external environment including grass, planted areas, building fabric, and roadways to mitigate contamination issues. Additionally, systems must be in place to control access to the facility for employees, contractors, visitors, and drivers. Production and storage area access must be controlled, and site staff must be trained in site security procedures. 4.2 relates to the Food Defense Program to protect products, premises, and brands from malicious acts under the control of the facility. Personnel who are responsible for threat analysis must be trained and knowledgeable of the facility and its security challenges. A food defense plan must be in place based on a risk assessment of the potential risks to products from deliberate acts to contaminate or damage products. For higher risk items or areas, monitors and controls must be put in place to prevent adulteration. 4.3 lists the requirements for layout, product flow, and segregation to prevent the risk of product contamination. The manufacturer must have a map that defines production risk zones, access points for personnel and raw materials, routes of movement for personnel, raw materials, waste, rework, locations of staff facilities, production process flows, and other segregation areas. Also, contractors and visitors must be made aware of, and site personnel must enforce, the requirements in each area. 4.4 requires the fabrication of the site, buildings, and facilities to be suitable for the intended purpose. Under this section, the standards for walls, floors, ceilings, windows, doors, lighting, ventilation, drainage, roofs, elevated walkways, and curtains are presented. 4.5 covers utilities used within the production and storage areas monitoring to control contamination risks. Water used in the facility as raw materials, ingredient preparation, hand washing, and cleaning must be in sufficient quantity, potable, fit for purpose, and pose no contamination risk. The site must have a schematic diagram of the water distribution system including water source, holding tanks, treatment, and recycling where appropriate. Other utilities like air and other gases must be monitored to prevent contamination risks. 4.6 and 7 are the section covering equipment and maintenance. 4.6 covers the equipment standards which includes detailing specifications, design and construction, commissioning, and cleaning requirements. It also covers movement of static equipment, decommissioning standards, and forklift food safety requirements. And 4.7 are the maintenance requirements which lists those for preventive maintenance programs, inspections, temporary repairs, and maintenance shops cleanliness standards. It also covers the materials and parts grade and quality standards used in equipment maintenance. Section 4.8 has the staff facility standards requiring them to be sufficient to accommodate the required number of personnel. Staff facilities include changing rooms, storage facilities for outdoor clothing and other personal items, hand-washing stations, and restrooms. This section also covers employee food brought in from the outside, catering, and vending machine requirements. The facility must also provide smoking areas in a safe location to prevent product contamination. 4.9 includes chemical and physical product contamination control such as raw material handling, preparation, processing, packing, and storage areas. The evaluated areas are chemical control, metal control, glass, brittle plastic, ceramics, and similar materials. Products packed in glass and other brittle containers, wood, and other physical contaminants. 4.10 covers the reduction or elimination of product contamination risks through the use of detectors or equipment. These include filters, sieves, metal detectors, X-rays, magnets, optical sorting, or other physical separation equipment. The testing requirements of the equipment must be defined to ensure it is working as intended. Lastly, the foreign materials detected must be investigated and trended to instigate preventive actions to reduce the possibility of contamination. Section 4.11 focuses on the housekeeping and hygiene systems that shall be in place to ensure appropriate standards of hygiene are maintained to minimize the risk of product contamination. Documented cleaning and disinfection procedures must be in place that include the responsibility of cleaning, items and areas to be clean, frequency, methods, chemicals and concentrations, and record keeping. The cleaning standards and monitoring methods based on relevant hazards shall be defined in the procedure. 4.11.7 covers the cleaning in place standards, and 4.11.8 lay out the environmental monitoring system checks. 4.12 covers the waste and waste disposal management requirements to prevent accumulation, contamination risks, and prevent the attraction of pests. Internal and external waste collection containers and rooms housing waste shall be clearly identified, designed for ease of use and effective cleaning, well maintained, and emptied at appropriate frequencies. 4.13 evaluates that effective processes are in place for managing surplus food and products for animal feed to ensure the safety and legality of byproducts of the primary processing activities. Surplus customer branded products shall be disposed of based on customer specifications. 4.14 is the pest management section requiring effective pest management programs to be in place to minimize the risk of pest presence in and around the facility. Pest activity must be inspected, identified, trended, and documented. Bait stations and insect-killing devices shall be monitored for activity and immediate action taken if an infestation is observed. 4.15 covers storage facilities used for raw materials, packaging, and process and finished products requiring them to be suitable for their purpose. Product safety and quality procedures must be in place based on the risk assessment including management of chilled and frozen products, segregation to avoid physical, microbiological or allergens cross-contamination, staked items, and placement off floors and away from floors walls. Controlled environments must be monitored and enunciate if out of specification. Lastly, stock rotation of raw materials, intermediate products, and finished goods systems must be in place and followed. The last area of Section 4 is Point 16 that evaluates dispatch and transportation systems to ensure that shipping receiving processes, vehicles, and containers used do not present a food safety risk. Procedures must be in place to maintain product safety before, during, and after transport. Vehicle inspections and temperature checks, where required, shall be in place to ensure food safety. Section 5 is the product control part of the audit. This area is applicable to quality, production, and procurement. 5.1 involves the product design and development stages that require procedures for new or updates to existing products. New and existing products must be reviewed and approved by the HACCP team leader. Test runs are required if potential food safety issues are applicable, and shelf life testing must be undertaken and documented. 5.2 lays out the product labeling standards. The product labeling shall comply with appropriate legal requirements and contain information to enable safe handling, display, storage, and preparation of the product within the food supply chain or by the customer. There must be an effective process in place when changes occur, including legislation, recipe, and raw materials supplier and country of origin. 5.3 covers the allergen management to minimize the risk of allergen contamination and cross-contract with products and meet legal requirements for labeling. An assessment must be done to establish the presence, routes of potential contamination, rework hazards, and overall risk of allergens present in the manufacturing facility. Scheduling and cleaning must also be considered as part of the allergen management program. 5.4 covers product authenticity, claims, and chain of custody to prevent purchasing fraudulent or adulterated food materials and to ensure all product description claims are legal, accurate, and verified. 5.5 deals with product packaging, purchasing, and storage considerations. The primary packaging material must be suitable for the type of product that placed in, and must be appropriately color, contrasting to the product, and resistant to tearing. 5.6 evaluates product inspection, on-site product testing, and laboratory analysis. The manufacturer must have a schedule and documentation of applicable product testing, including microbiological, chemical, physical, organoleptic, and shelf life based on product risks. The laboratory testing requirements and methods, whether on-site or off-site, is included under this section. 5.7 requires that finished products are not released unless all procedures have been followed. 5.8 and 0.9 cover pet food and animal feed considerations. 5.9 Animal primary conversion. Section 6 is the Process Control Unit. This section applies to quality, operations, and maintenance. 6.1 covers the control of operations requirement to operate to process specifications, work instructions, and procedures that ensure the production of consistent, safe, and legal products with the desired quality characteristics and compliance with HACCP and food safety plans. Processes must be documented, including recipes, mixing instructions, equipment settings, cooking and cooling times and temperatures, labeling instructions, coding, storage conditions, and any other critical control points identified in the HACCP plan. Section 6.2 focuses on the management controls of product labeling activities to ensure the products are labeled and coded correctly. Processes for proper packaging, labeling, and verification methods must be in place. Checks must include date coding, batch coding, quantity indication, barcoding, country of origin, and allergen information. Section 6.3 evaluates product quantities, including weight, volume, and number control. This ensures that quantity checks meet legislation requirements. And Section 6.4 includes the calibration and control of measuring and monitoring devices. The measuring equipment must be sufficiently accurate and reliable to provide confidence in measurement results based on a predetermined frequency and to a defined method. Section 7 evaluates the personnel requirements. Because employee knowledge, skills, and abilities applies to all departments, this section is applicable to everyone in a manufacturing facility. 7.1 covers the requirement to ensure everyone who affects product safety and quality, such as those working in raw materials handling, preparation, processing, packing, and storage areas, can demonstrate competence to carry out their activities. The documented training must cover the competencies of the role, review the effectiveness of the training, and be delivered in the appropriate language of the trainees. 7.2 requires the facility to develop personal hygiene standards to minimize the risk of product contamination, and followed by all personnel including employees, contractors, and visitors. The hygiene standards include those required by Good Manufacturing Practices, GMPs, such as jewelry, watches, rings, fingernails, and perfume. Other criteria include hand washing as well as proper coverings for cuts and wounds. 7.3 evaluate the company's procedures to ensure that all personnel, including visitors, are not a source of transmission of infections, disease, or conditions to products. Personnel must be trained to ensure they are aware of the types of symptoms and their expectations. 7.4 covers suitable site-issued protective clothing that shall be worn when working in or entering production areas. Protective clothing must be provided in sufficient numbers based on the size of the workforce, designed to prevent contamination, and fully containing all scalp and facial hair. The section also covers gloves, laundering, and changing out of protective clothing. Section 8 covers high-risk and high-care areas in a facility. High risk refers to food that is ready to eat, needs no further cooking, and can support bacterial growth and toxin formation. In high care is a physically segregated zone within a facility designed to minimize the risk of contamination in products that require strict hygiene controls but do not involve the killing or reduction of microbial hazards through processes like cooking or high heat. The subsections get more in-depth requirements on material previously covered. They include 8.1 Layout, Product Flow and Segregation in High Risk, High Care and Ambient High Care Zones. 8.2 Building Fabric in High Risk and High Care Zones. 8.3 Equipment and Maintenance in High Risk and High Care Zones. 8.4 Staff Facilities for High Risk and High Care Zones. 8.5 Housekeeping and Hygiene in High Risk and High Care Zones. 8.6 Waste and Waste Disposal in High Risk, High Care Zones. And 8.7 Protective Clothing in High Risk and High Care Zones. And Section 9 lists the requirements for traded products. Traded products are food products that would normally fall within the scope of the BRCGS standard and are stored at the facility of the site being audited, but that are not manufactured, processed, reworked, packed, or labeled at the site. The sections include 9.1 The Food Safety Plan and HACCP. 9.2 Approval and Performance Monitoring of Manufacturers/Packers of Traded Food Products. 9.3 Specifications. 9.4 Product Inspection and Laboratory Testing. 9.5 Product Legality. And 9.6 Traceability. BRCGS classifies nonconformances into categories based on their impact on food safety and legal compliance. The categories are: critical nonconformance. Represents a serious direct threat to food safety or a breach of the law. Major nonconformance. A significant systemic failure or the absence of a crucial quality management system feature, which raises serious doubts about product conformity. Repeat minor nonconformances from past audits can also raise the issue to a major nonconformance. And minor nonconformance. A minor deviation from requirements, or where a specific clause has not been fully met. Some common nonconformances reported by BRCGS include site standards, issues with factory cleanliness, hygiene, pest control management, and the maintenance of premises, for example, walls, floors, and ceilings, are frequent findings. Chemical control. Inadequate control over non-food chemicals, including improper labeling, storage, and handling, can lead to contamination. Documentation and training. Deficiencies in documenting procedures, such as cleaning schedules, and a lack of proper staff training are common areas of concern. And traceability and security. Weaknesses in traceability systems and insufficient food defense measures to prevent tampering or unauthorized access are also recurring problems. The total count and type of these nonconformities determine the final grade. The grade scale is as follows. AA. No more than 5 minor nonconformities. A. 5 to 10 minor nonconformities. B. 11 to 16 minor nonconformities, or 1 major and up to 10 minor. C. 17 to 24 minor nonconformities, or 1 major and up to 16 minor, or 2 major and up to 10 minor. D. 25 to 30 minor nonconformities, or 1 major and up to 24 minor, or 2 major and up to 16 minor. And uncertified. If a critical nonconformity or a fundamental requirement is not met, the site will not receive certification. For unannounced audits, A+ sign will be added to the grade. For example, a C would be a C+. A BRCGS audit is about demonstrating that food safety is embedded in your daily operations. By focusing on documentation, internal audits, employee training, and proactive compliance, you can approach your audit with confidence and achieve BRCGS certification. We hope you found this training valuable. Please click the subscribe button to access additional Food Sure training videos.